Hey guys, welcome back. Right now it's probably about 10 degrees below zero outside. I'm gonna spend tonight in the shop. I had bought this set of chisels from Harbor Freight. They're called Windsor Design is the brand. The set of chisels is $10. When I was there I picked them up because I've heard from some others they're actually a really decent chisel for 10 bucks. And so I wanted to pick this set up, put a good sharp edge on them. But a lot of times with some tools, you'll find that even though you're buying a cheaper quality, sometimes the tool just needs a little bit of work and you can put it into a pretty good working condition. And so I'm hoping the same is with the steel in these chisels, that they will take a good edge and hold an edge fairly decent. I'm not expecting them to hold an edge for a super long time and really hard wood like oak and hickory and hitting some heavy knots and stuff. I'm sure they're gonna get dull quicker than an expensive, $500 set of chisels, but for $10, if these work halfway decent, I'll be happy with them. Having an extra set of sharp chisels around isn't a bad thing, especially if you're working on something, you drop one on the floor, you don't want to have to stop your project just to go repair a chisel. You can grab another one of the same size, and for 10 bucks I really can't lose. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these out of the package and we'll put a good sharp edge on them and see how they do. So it's a 6-piece set. You get a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, and 1/4, and 1.5 inch. So it's a pretty good variety of chisels. Less than $2 a chisel, you really can't argue. The handles look okay. They look like if they got hit too hard, they would probably break. So you probably want to use a wooden mallet and definitely not use any sort of metal hammer or anything on it and hammer away at them too hard. I'm not expecting these to come out of the box super sharp. They are a little sharp, but they're not sharp enough. I don't really expect any chisel out of the box to come out sharp enough. Same with this, it has a little bit of a rough edge, but it's nice and flat and straight. And I'm getting the same thing here. It's got a pretty nasty burr on it from the machining. So out of the box, these are nowhere near ready to be used. They need to be sharpened. First I'm going to wipe them down. It comes with like a varnish on it probably to prevent rusting, but I'll just give them a wipe down. So what I usually do and what I'd like to do at some point is set up a sharpening station or a mount for these diamond plates. I also keep an area sometimes here with a piece of sandpaper. I think it's like 120 grit. So if I have an edge that needs a little bit extra work, I can try to get that edge sharp. And this is Advantech. This is heavy duty subflooring, like 3/4 inch. So it's very flat. And by sticking this on here, I can make a nice flat edge on it. This was just left over from a remodeling project in my bathroom. So we're going to start with the 300 grit. And these are probably going to take a fair amount of work. It's probably going to take some time. And I have this, I have this rubber mount that I use for my diamond stones. You just kind of screw it in tight, lock it into place, and it's rubber. So when you go to push on it, it doesn't move around. Just put a few drops of honing solution. If you find you need more, you add more. So first we're going to start on the 300 grit. What you can do, and what I used to do, is use this honing guide. And what this does is it will hold your chisel or plane iron to the angle that you want. So if you want 25 degrees, you can bring it up. If you want 30 degrees, you can bring it down or whatever. And it gives you a little bit of a kind of a chart on the side. It tells you how far out or in will give you a certain angle. But I've gotten used to doing it with sharpening these without the honing guide at this point. Initially I'd probably say try using the honing guide at first, because it did help me kind of get used to the angle that I want. And then once I got to that point now, I just freehand it. It's faster, which is kind of the big reason why I don't use it anymore. So I'll spread the honing solution around a little bit. Probably put a little more on. And I'll kind of hold it till that edge of the chisel is mostly flat on there. And then I'll just go in like a figure 8. I'll move it around at all different angles. You can go back and forth. You want to go till you get a nice flat edge. You want to put some pressure down, but you don't have to muscle it too bad. Unless you're trying to take off a lot of material, in which you probably want to be using a low grit sandpaper. So that actually looks like it's in pretty good shape. I already got a burr on the end from doing that, so I've already gotten the whole edge. You can go in circles, back and forth and sway, or I like to just go in different angles to use as much of the stone as I can. And I can tell that this is a softer metal because it is, even though it is 300 grit, you wouldn't expect it to, see if I can get that to focus, you wouldn't expect it to grind that down so much that I already got a burr like that, which means it's a bit softer of a metal than the other chisels I have, but they look like they're still going to work fairly decent. So I want to take that burr off at least. So you just go on the back side, go on the top, just kind of go back and forth, and eventually that burr will loosen up. And then usually just, you want to be careful doing this, but you can a lot of times just peel it off once you go back and forth a few times. And the other thing you can do is you can go on the edge of a piece of wood and just kind of cut sideways into it, and it'll break the burr off. Obviously not going to hurt the chisel because you're going into wood, which is what a chisel is made for doing. So that burr is gone, and we get a good start on our chisel edge. Once you start getting a shiny, sharp edge on these, you definitely want to be careful. So what I'll probably do is go 300 on all of them first, and then I'll switch the stones over. So it is soft metal, so it's taking the edge down pretty quick. Let's see what the back looks like here. It looks fairly flat, surprisingly. We'll probably work on them a little bit towards the end. Go to our 3/4. I'll just fire through the rest of these on this 300 grit. You get the idea at this point. Now, I'm no professional at this. This is just how I do it. If there's anybody out there who does have any ideas or suggestions, or see something I'm doing that I could maybe do better, I'm definitely open to comments and suggestions, like always. But this is just what I've learned through time and watching others, and it's what seems to work for me. I always find pulling it across the wood is just the easiest way to get that burr off, and you don't have to go touching the edge of the chisel, because I don't really want to get cut. So let's see, I'll use a sandpaper to see how flat this actually is. So again, this has a little bit of a tiny bit of a cup in the middle of it, nothing you would notice with your eye unless you ran it across sandpaper like that, but you can see the edges made contact with the sandpaper, and there's just that little bit of a cup in the middle, which should come out fairly easily. So you get the idea on the 300 grit. I'm going to go ahead and get these other three done real quick. We'll come back and hit the 600, the 1200 and 4000, and then hit the leather strop, and we'll go from there. So I'll be back in just a second. Alright, so I've got all the chisels down to the 300 grit. I'm moving on to the 600. And you'll notice that I write the grit on the back of the diamond stones when I get them, because I want to know the difference between them. So this just makes it easier for me to figure that out. I'm definitely a newbie woodworker. I do this for fun, and I've learned what I've learned from watching other people along the way and picking up tips whenever I can to try to do things better and more efficiently. So again, like I said, if you see something that I'm doing and you have some suggestions on how I could possibly do it better, I'd love to hear about it. If you could put those things down in the comment section below so everyone else can see too, that would be awesome. One thing that's great about this community is the people sharing knowledge and experience with others to help them learn and do things easier. I'm going to do the same thing on the 600, and again, this is just how I do it. I'm not going to have to work it as much, very light pressure, and I'm just going to pull back 15-20 times or so. The edge up here is looking decent. Alright, so this one's down to 600. Put these over here so I know. I'm not really trying to look to remove a whole lot of material, more just trying to bring it up to that grit's worth of sharpness and gradually bring it up. So that's really all that should need. I should stop using my sleeve since I do have a rag right here. It's looking good. You know, as I move up in the higher in the grits, if I don't have a burr on the edge of it, I usually don't worry too much about it. Towards the end, I may have a burr on the chisel, in which case I'll remove it at that point. But with each stone I go over, I do go over the back of the chisel in the front and then just feel for if there's a burr on there or not, and I'll remove it. This one's very slight. I'm not worried about that. Like I said, I'll remove the burr on a later process. I still, I'll look at the side. Like you'll see me looking at the, I don't know if you can see me doing that, but I'll be looking at it from the side. Obviously not with my face right in it, but from a distance. Just to make sure I'm staying flat and with the angle of the chisel, since I am not using a honing guide. There's obviously guys who've been doing this for decades that can probably do this in their sleep and get the perfect angle every time. But that's not me. Right. I'm not even really counting how many strokes I'm doing. I'm just kind of just going with it. I don't think you could really do too many. You can see the tip. You can see the shine on the tip there. You don't necessarily have to go to 4,000 and use a strop. You can still get a really sharp chisel without it. For me, I just like to do it because I like to get that super shiny, sharp, super sharp edge. With these cheaper chisels and the softer metal, I'm not really going to hold that super sharp edge for a very long time anyways, especially if you're working in really hard wood. But I like to have these things as sharp as I can when I pull them off the shelf. I'll switch over to the 1200 grit and I'll be right back. Alright, so we're back and I switched over to the 1200 grit. I'm just going to do one of these real quick just to show you me sharpening on the 1200 grit. You're going to see that it's really no different than the 600, and the 4000's again going to be very much the same. At least just that's again how I do it. You got the kids in the other room playing video games, if you can't hear them. So, again, same thing. Anywhere from 10 to 20 strokes I think is fine on the 1200. So as you can see, it's really pretty much the same as the way I do the 600 grit. So I'm going to go ahead and get all these down to all the 1200 grit done, and then we'll move over to the 4000. Alright, so I got them all up to now 1200, and I got the 4000 set up here. You don't have to go to the 4000. I started out just with the 3.6 and 1200, and for that matter you could even use 3.6 and 1200 grit sandpaper. I like to use, when I'm using sandpaper, I like to buy the rolls of this stuff that has an adhesive back, so I can actually stick it down in the flat surface and work on it that way. So I got the 240 grit and I got a 120. So if I got to take off a lot of material, I'll use these and then work my way up to the 300, 600, 1200. So if you got a chisel that's got like a good chip out of it that you might have dropped on the ground or something, or you have something like this old draw knife that needs to be restored and it's got a real bumpy rough edge on it, I prefer older tools. It just seems the steel, the metal in them, hold an edge better. They take a little bit more to sharpen, but they last longer, at least from what I can tell. So we're going to get on the 4000 grit here. I'll just show you a couple of the chisels so you get the idea of what I'm doing. Not that it'll be a surprise because you just saw me do it on the other ones. So as I get higher up in the grit, I usually just pull back, and you'll notice as you're working it with, and you don't need to use this honing solution. Like I said, you can use Windex, and you can see the honing solution turning black. That's the steel, and you'll see what 4000 gives you almost a mirror finish on the edge of that chisel. And really that's all you need is, maybe 10-15 strokes. So you get the idea. Same thing on this. I'm just going to do the other 5 real quick. We'll jump over to the strop, and then we'll get a chance to test out these cheap chisels. See you in a bit. Alright, so we're back. I got all these chisels down to 4000 grit. This is my leather strop, just a piece of leather I picked up on Amazon. I charged it with some honing compound. Like I said, it's already very sharp anyways. This is just going to give it a little bit of an extra shine and fine tuning on the edge. So what I usually do is I just put it on top of this piece of sandpaper, and the sandpaper holds the leather in place enough for me to run the chisel across it. So usually I'll just give it a good amount of pressure. I'll push down and pull it towards me. You don't want to push in because you're going to cut the leather with the chisel, because at this point it's already going to be very sharp. So you're just going to push down hard, maybe go 30 or 40 times. And hopefully you can see this. You can see the mirror finish on that chisel now, especially where it counts. So I'll do the rest of these, because you basically get the idea from me showing you this one. Before we do run it and we test it, I'm going to run the back of it on the sandpaper a little bit just to get a somewhat flat edge on the back of it. Ideally I'd want to put new sandpaper down to do it. So this one could definitely use a lot more sanding. It's got a bit of a cup in the middle. You can see where it's sanding on the edges, but not so much in the middle. It also could be that the sandpaper is not that great. But we're just going to go ahead and test to see how well this edge cuts. And like I said, I'll grab a piece of oak. We'll go over to the bench and we'll test it out. So this is just a small scrap piece of oak, red oak. And so I'll try it on the back side. It's cutting very smooth. We'll test the bevel. cuts pretty well. I don't see any problem with using that. So here I get the 1/2 inch. Very smooth. They work well. For 10 bucks, I can't lose. It's a decent set of chisels. So if you're looking for, your first set of chisels or an extra set, and you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, for 10 bucks, these are a really good deal, and they work pretty well. You really can't beat it. It's a good deal. I'll try to look up a link online to this set of chisels. I'll also try to find a link to these diamond stones that I use. Like I said, you don't have to use these diamond stones. You don't have to use honing compound. You can get away with, just using sandpaper. The diamond stones make it easy because I don't have to keep replacing them. They'll last, as far as I know, forever. I like using them, so it's just my preference. I still do use sandpaper occasionally to restore tools, like I was saying. When I go to restore these tools, I'll share that with you so you can see how I do that. As far as I'm concerned, it was a successful test so far. But over time, we'll see how well they hold up. And I will let you know one way or another. You'll see me using them in videos, I'm sure. I have another project that I'm kind of halfway through. I'm building a plane till to store all my hand planes. I'm probably going to sell some of these or give them away. So be on the lookout for those things in the future videos. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got going on for now. I have some other projects I want to work on in here. I want to build some shelves for the bedrooms in the house, kind of like display shelves or shelves to store stuff. So that'll be a cool, fun project. But as usual, thanks for watching. If you have any questions about anything here in the shop or anything you see me do in the videos, drop those down in the comments below. If you have any suggestions on how I could do some of these things better, I'm more than happy to take those suggestions from you and use them and share them as I learn more. And if you could put those things down in the comment section, it wouldn't just help me, but it will also help the others watching and reading the comments. So if you like this video, please hit that like button. Jump on the channel and check out some of these other videos here. And if you're new here and you're checking out these other videos and you see what you like, hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified of future videos as I release them. So until next time, take care.